Detective O'Hannah had seen some scenes in his 10 years in CID. He had seen bodies and blood, semen and all manner of horrendous and hideous. But this scene, which had him out at 3 a.m. in the morning, was something out of the pages of a Stephen King novel, and this time was far more personal. As he stepped into the living room of 234 Canterbury Road, he watched as the CSI personnel rushed around him, collecting evidence and cataloguing anything of value. He looked down towards the elephant in the room. A body lay face up, sprawled in starfish formation. Still in the suit he wore the day at the office, 2 glasses on the coffee table and a scotch tumbler and a wine glass, both still full. Whoever his guest had been, they had skipped to the gruesome end of their date. The body had several obvious and glaring holes in his chest. His face was scratched so badly it looked as if he'd been mauled by a bear. Detective O'Hannah wanted to look away, to give the dignity and respect that this body deserved, but he couldn't pull his eyes from the man whose body now lay lifeless in the home he'd bought only 4 months before. A life he would never have, memories he'd never make, and cases that would never be cracked.
O'Hannah, my condolences. If you need to take a step back, one of the others can take this case.
O'Hannah never took his eyes off the body.
It's not every day you lose a partner, Neil. But I'll be damned if I'm going to let another son of a bitch investigate my partner's death.
The body that lay on the ground in front of him was Detective Carl Peters. He and O'Hannah had been partners for nearly 15 years since they both joined CID. Together and collectively, they had 4 failed marriages, 1 success at O'Hannah's end, moved departments twice, seen the birth of 2 children, watched the rise and fall of government, and neither had ever missed a rugby league championship at Wembley. All that was now gone. Nothing but collective data that somebody would use in a eulogy speech. Neil was an inspector in CID, O'Hannah's direct supervisor, but more importantly, and right in this moment, he was O'Hannah's only living friend.
Anything you need, just let me know.
O'Hannah's eyes narrowed. He knew the first hour inside a crime scene was critical, the golden hour, to see things how the killer would have seen them, to spot and gather evidence before it was contaminated. The body? What was so important about the body? Scratches on his face, nails possibly? Face up, not down? The holes were definitely stab wounds. Women favour guns because it's less force to kill, less strength. However, the nail scratches and untouched wine glass would suggest a woman was responsible, or at least present at the time. O'Hannah made his way to the kitchen. All eyes followed. Using a gloved hand, he had opened the dishwasher, and there in the centre of the console was a single sharp kitchen knife. He pulled it out and placed it into an evidence bag. He then handed it to a CSI lackey hovering nearby. He was convinced now a woman was behind this. As he entered the living room, he moved towards the small coffee table in the room. He opened the drawer underneath and pulled out a small red book.
The ledger.
O'Hannah's mouth twitched, his brain fighting against the instinct to smile. Boss?
Peters always wrote the name of every girl he ever went out with. Name, phone number, and score out of 10. If they scored a 7 or higher, they got a second date. As long as they kept scoring, he kept seeing them.
That's disgusting. It was only then that O'Hannah realised the CSI lackey was a woman. Dressed head to toe in white hazmat, it's easy after all these years to desensitise to gender. He offered an apologetic smile, but opened the ledger to the last page. The same initials written over and over, A.H.
That's odd.
The woman in the hazmat suit huffed. What's odd? O'Hannah turned the pages of the book, thumbing each page looking for discrepancies.
He wrote the same initial in all of these pages.
So, what, you said if they scored he'd keep seeing them?
This girl got all 10s from the first date. You know anybody that perfect? And why keep scoring her? If she scored 10 across the board for 8 consecutive pages, then why not just make it official?
That's men for you. The CSI scoffed and walked off, clipboard in hand. O'Hannah rolled his eyes. This is why women made such sloppy serial killers. Far too emotional and impulsive.
What's your name?
Bree Connors, sir. An ounce of respect. O'Hannah smirked. She knew her place, but she liked to make her opinions known.
Well, Bree Connors, what can you tell me about the crime scene so far? Establish the facts for me.
Bree's eyes narrowed and she reflectively bit her bottom lip. The determination set in. We're looking for a woman. The killer stabbed him at least 3 times, possibly more. That's emotional and impulsive, not calculated and thought out. But she then placed the knife in the washer to be cleaned. Plus the scratch marks on his face look like nails. False probably, since the cut is as deep all the way down, meaning she didn't break her real nails when she attacked him. Here, Ohana was impressed. He noticed the nail marks, but would never have connected it with being false or not. It could have been the difference between an innocent life and a guilty one being charged. Should I go on? Bree was staring at Ohana. She had mistaken his silence for disinterest.
Please do.
The wine glasses also. Everyone knows Peters was partial to scotch, which makes the wine glass his guess. Wine often the drink of choice of the fairer sex. Then there's the smell.
Smell?
Bree looked confused for a moment, narrowed her eyes. She thought maybe he was testing her. Yes, she said slowly. A woman's perfume. Chanel if I'm not mistaken, and I rarely am. Bree hadn't the opportunity to finish before Ohana was out the door. Back in his car, his thoughts were whirling around. A woman, a wine-drinking woman with false nails. A woman who was clearly there for a date with Peters. A woman who he'd seen repeatedly for at least 4 months, judging by the ledger. A woman who had scored in his journal and couldn't just come outright and tell his partner about. A married woman. A married woman who wore Chanel with the initials AH. As Ohana pulled up the drive of AH's home, he let himself in. He didn't need the key. He took the stairs 2 at a time, and when he opened the door of the his and hers bathroom, there she stood. AH. Her hands wrapped around a white dress which she was trying so desperately hard to clean the blood from. Her hands stained.
Alison.
The woman turned, her makeup smudged with tears. Her normally perfectly presented auburn hair was now dishevelled. Kieran.
Carl never could accept our last name started with O and not a H. He always said it sounded like he was just taking a breath before saying Hannah. Alison Ohana. So he wrote your initials AH. He was having an affair with a married woman. He was having an affair with you.
The anger in his voice barely contained. Ohana reached for his cuffs.
Alison Ohana, you are under arrest.
The sound of the gunshot rang out in Ohana's ears. The world slowed and he fell to the ground. He saw Alison standing above him, steady hand on the trigger of a CID-issued gun. Peter's gun. Shh, now my darling. Well done, you caught me red-handed. Now shh, my sweet. Peter's waiting for you. Those were the last words Ohana heard from his wife as he slipped into the darkness. Hi guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell. We'll see you all again soon when I can think of a story.
And I can bring it to life.
Till then, enjoy that brew.